All right, everybody. How's everybody doing? Happy New Year. It's 2021. We made it, y'all. I'm Jeremy Langlois coming to you from Houmas House Estate and Gardens, and so glad to have you here with us today. I wanted to start the new year off right. Whereas most people, when they start off the new year, it's all about. I was actually on some just food websites earlier this week, just looking around, and of course, a lot of the trending things in the food world is everybody making their New Year's resolutions and healthy meals and this, that, and other. And I thought, you know what? I want to be a part of that. And let's start the new year off with doing some fried chicken. So, instead of going healthy, we're going to go right for the fried chicken just to have something fun. Well, I'm not against healthy food by any means. I absolutely love fried chicken. And one thing I love to do in a lot of my cooking, and if you've ever dined here at Houmas House, is I like to take things that are either part of Louisiana classic, our history, or our culture in food, and kind of twist them up and kind of think about them in new ways. And this is a great example of what I mean by that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a sweet tea brined chicken that we fry. So sweet tea brined fried chicken. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a brine, but we're going to use sweet tea. And then we're going to marinate our chicken in it to really get a good brine on it. And then we're just going to come back and fry it traditionally. Now, like anything, especially something like fried chicken, I could never fry chicken probably as good as Leah Chase from Dookie Chase's in New Orleans. So I always like to put twist on different dishes, and this is one of them. So kind of how I came up with this dish was my wife, she doesn't drink sweet tea anymore. She just drinks unsweetened tea now. But back in the day, she would love sweet tea. And anytime I ever tasted it, I always thought it was real sugary, almost too sugary. But one thing that I love about sweet tea is it's something that's absolutely Southern. If you were to travel outside of the South anywhere and you would ask, our restaurants, we just have sweet tea on hand. But you go to restaurants, say in New York or anywhere else in the world, they're not going to have sweet tea. You ask for sweet tea, they're going to give you unsweetened tea and sugar. But sweet tea is such a part of our daily life. I love incorporating that flavors into our cooking. So I thought to myself, how can I do that? And I came up with this dish. I've used this with chicken, but you can use it with duck or pork. A lot of different meats work great. So what we're going to do is we're going to brine the meat. So what's a brine? So a brine is literally where you take a liquid, water, and you add lots of salt or lots of sugar, lots of salt, and you let your meat marinate in it overnight, and it really permeates that meat and gives it a unique flavor, and it kind of seasons the meat all the way through. Well, as I was talking about just sweet tea being real sugary, I was thinking to myself, well, hey, you already have this liquid that has a lot of sugar in it. What if we just kind of added some salt and turned that into a brine? And that's kind of how this dish came. So let me catch up and let you know where we're at here. I have a pot on with some water, and just to show you what I got going here, this is 6 cups of water, and I heated it up to it just got hot, and I start to see some steam coming off of it. And I added to it just 8 black tea bags to it. And then just let that steep for about 5 minutes, and then cut it off, but still keeping it hot. And then once we got to this point, I can go ahead and I can take those tea bags out and kind of give them a squeeze, and we basically have just some tea in this pot. Now I'm going to go ahead and add, the reason we wanted it to heat up is so we could go ahead and get that tea going and steep that in, but also we're going to add a lot of sugar and a lot of salt, and it wouldn't dissolve unless this solution is hot. So let me show you what we got going on here. 6 cups of water with our tea in it, and now I'm going to add a half a cup of kosher salt and a cup of sugar. Now, if you're looking at that and being like, oh my God, that's just so much. Well, that's what a brine is. If I were to just dip my finger in here or take a spoon and taste this, it would taste unbelievably salty and unbelievably sweet, like too much so, like inedible. However, that's what you're looking for with a brine, because what we want to do is this is going to sit overnight with these chicken legs and chicken thighs, and it's going to permeate that meat. And if it doesn't taste overwhelmingly salty and overwhelmingly sweet, then you're not going to get that flavor in here. So we go ahead and we add it in here, and then we kill the fire, and then I'm not going to wait, but what you would want to do is do this and then wait about 20 minutes and let this cool down to room temperature. The reason for that is now I have a Ziploc bag. I already have 2 chicken legs in here. And this is just quarter chickens, and I got a chicken thigh in here. And you would just put, hey, I love for fried chicken dark meat, but obviously that's your preference. If you want wings and breast, well, of course, the recipe will still apply. And then what we're going to do is let that, once this is cooled off, again, we want this to cool off to room temperature, and then we add our brine to the chicken, just enough to kind of coat it. And these bags work great. You can then zip it up, and then you can put it into the refrigerator, and we let that sit overnight. Now, the reason, again, that you want that to be room temperature is you never want to add something hot or warm to raw meat, because if this was still hot, it would expose the meat to the temperature danger zone, which is a culinary term that we use in industry that denotes the temperature where bacteria can cause food to spoil. So if you were to put that hot liquid on this cold chicken and just let it sit there, you risk the food spoiling, and we don't want that. But you cool it down, put it in the bag, put it in the refrigerator, and now you let it go overnight, or about 8 hours or overnight. It's fantastic. Like everything, guys, if you like what we're doing here, give us a like. A big thing that really helps us is hit that share button. It really helps get these videos out, and we just love it so much. And of course, like always, my friend Jesse's behind the camera, so at any point you got some comments or some questions, drop a comment in there and we'll try to answer them on air, or I'll answer them later on Facebook. So now let's go ahead, and we got our chicken marinated, so let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to fry this batter in. This is a very basic batter, but of course, like all recipes, especially something as popular as fried chicken, every chef's going to have a different version. Let me show you mine and some of the things that we're going to put in here. So I got here, this is just all-purpose flour. I'm going to add to it. First thing that isn't definitely common, but not super common, is I like to add a little bit of cornmeal into just the flour mixture, because I find it gives it just a great texture. So a little bit of cornmeal goes in. Next, I'm going to add some cornstarch. Cornstarch is great for a chicken batter because it really helps that batter get crispy and flaky. If you didn't have that cornstarch in it, you wouldn't have that nice crispy. It's going to help it just have an extra bit of crunch and an extra layer of flakiness as it fries up. Then it's just all about seasonings you like. For example, a lot of people like really spicy chicken. Like I've said it several times, I'm a wimp when it comes to spice, so I don't add too much spice, but let me show you what I do add. I got some granulated garlic. That goes in. And of course, our recipe is online with the amounts that I'm putting in on everything. Houmashouse.com, hit the resource tab on the website, that drops down the menu, recipes, and you'll see this one right at the top. So granulated garlic went in. Next, granulated onion. I got some paprika. Paprika has great mild peppery flavor. Now, this is where your heat comes from. So depending on how much spice you like, is going to be how much cayenne pepper you're going to add in. I'm adding in about a teaspoon or a tablespoon of cayenne pepper. And of course, like everything, a little bit of black pepper and a little bit of salt. But this is where you can get as creative as you want to. Different type of herbs would be fine here. Although, oftentimes herbs, when we go to fry, they'll kind of just fry away. But they'll definitely give some good flavor. Any kind of spices, if you have a little seasoning mix, like a jerk spice or something like that, that would be really fantastic in here. Let me know what y'all like to do, how y'all like y'all's fried chicken. But I'm just going to mix that up. Now we're ready to fry. This is some chicken that I marinated yesterday, overnight, in the sweet tea brine, and we're ready to fry. So I got this here. Well, first we need to make a little wash that we're going to coat the chicken in to make this batter stick. So I just have here some buttermilk. Buttermilk is going to help. Buttermilk fried chicken, classic. It has a great flavor, a little bit of hot sauce, and it's really going to help that batter stick. So just a little bit of buttermilk, little bit of hot sauce. If you don't have buttermilk, egg wash is great. Crack an egg or two and mix a cup of milk into this, and that's going to have that batter stick. Now, once we got to a point where we're ready to fry, let's go ahead and talk about our setup, because we are going to work in batches. I have my wash, I have my flour, and now I have my fryer. Now, of course, you can do this on a tabletop, on a cast iron pot is great. Put a thermometer in it. We're heating our oil to 375 degrees. But I really encourage everyone at home, if you think you're going to fry a couple times a year, I would go ahead and invest in a tabletop fryer, one that I have here. In fact, this fryer is one that I just went to our local store, and I just wanted to show for home cooking purposes. This was the cheapest one I could find, but it works fantastic. This was like $25. You fill up oil to the oil line. I set it to 375, and you don't have to manage your heat. One of the trickiest parts about frying, if you're doing it on a stovetop, is you have to manage your heat. Oh, it's too hot. Oh, it's not hot enough. You got to finagle with it. Well, this you don't have to worry about that. So I got it set to 375. Now we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the chicken out of the brine, shake off some of the excess, roll it around in this buttermilk hot sauce. Then I'm going to go into the flour. Then you could go straight into the fryer with this, but I actually like to come back and do one more round of that. And this helps just really get a nice batter on top. And now, once we got the chicken coated, shake off the excess, and we're going to carefully go right into the hot oil. And that's exactly what we want to see there. We want to see that sizzle. If you were to put your chicken into the pot and you got no sizzle and it just sits there, does nothing, well then that's not good. It means your oil's not hot enough. And if your oil isn't hot enough, your chicken's not going to fry and it's not going to cook, but also that batter, this flour batter, instead of it becoming crispy and nice, what's going to happen is it's just going to kind of wash off in that oil. So I'm going to add another one in. Let's get maybe one more leg in. Now with this, you want to work in batches, because the last thing, one of the fundamentals of frying, a couple things, you want clean oil. You want it heated up properly, 375. And then the last thing is we don't want to overcrowd our fryer, meaning we don't want to just throw piece after piece after piece, because what happens is you're actually going to cause, again, it's all about managing the temperature. And if I put too much chicken into this deep fryer, then what's going to happen is it's going to lower the temperature of the fryer, and then you're going to get all those negative effects that we don't want. Your chicken's not going to get crispy, the batter's going to wash off, and that's because you overcrowded your fryer and the temperature of the hot oil itself dropped. All right. Now, what I like to do is every now and then, whenever you deep fry, you want to batter whatever you're frying, whether you're frying shrimp or whether you're frying chicken or anything you're frying. You want to put it in, and you don't want to mess with it right away. I see Jessie waving her hands. What you got, Jessie?
Can you do this in an air fryer?
Hey, Londa, that's a great question. I mean, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with cooking with air fryers, so I can't talk about that personally right off the top of my head. I'm definitely familiar with the air fryer, but I've actually never used the air fryer myself personally. So sorry, I wish I was able to answer your question better, but I would say the internet's your friend. So maybe I would look up a recipe on Google saying air fried chicken, and they'll probably have that method posted, and I would follow whatever that says. I'm sure someone else has had that. I mean, oven frying chicken is something you can definitely do, where you batter your chicken, put a light rubbing of oil on the outside, and you stick it in a hot oven. So I'd imagine it would probably be similar to that. Sorry, I couldn't answer that better for you. I just don't have a lot of experience with those. Now, what I want to do is, as soon as we go ahead and we drop our chicken, like I said, you want to let that batter, you don't want to just start stirring it. We don't want it to stick together, but the second you drop this, whatever you're frying, in the fryer, you don't want to start messing with it right away, because the batter hasn't had a chance to really form around whatever you're frying. So if you mess with it too much in the beginning stages of the frying stages, you'll actually break up the batter and it'll flake off of whatever you're frying, and we don't want that. So you drop it in, let it go for about 30 seconds. That's going to allow that crust to start to form on the outside. And now I'm going to go in just every now and then, just move it around. Now look at this, y'all. Look how it's starting to fry up. I mean, that is looking pretty doggone good. Now, the big question that I'm sure everybody asking is, how long do I cook this for? Well, I don't have a straight answer for you, because depending on the size of your chicken and what piece of the chicken that you're cooking is going to determine how long it needs to cook. So something small like a chicken wing will probably fry in about 3 or 4 minutes. However, these legs are actually pretty big. A big leg, or if you're frying a whole breast, well, that could take as long as 8 to 10 minutes to fry. So what you want to do is just let it go. Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to get a nice, beautiful golden brown crust on the outside of your chicken, and then it will slowly start to float up. When you get to that point, you're pretty close to being done. When you see it start to float, give it another minute or two, and that'll allow it to kind of finish up. And then what we can do once it gets to that point is, I'm a big fan of, especially if you're new to cooking, if you got one of those thermometers at home, you can pull out the chicken, you can poke it with your thermometer, and you're looking for an internal temperature of 150 degrees. However, the simplest thing to do is just pull it out, cut a little piece on the inside, take a peek inside, and just make sure it looks like it's cooked all the way, and then that'll be good to go. Now, this is going to be a dish that I am going to be serving at the restaurant, so if you're local and nearby, we would love to have you. We'll be serving this sweet tea brined fried chicken for lunch, And for lunch, both Friday and Saturday, so tomorrow and Saturday, here at the restaurant, we're going to be serving it with some dirty rice and some smothered vegetables. But I would love for you in the comments to say, what are your favorite sides whenever it comes to fried chicken? I mean, I'm a pretty simple guy, but I think mashed potatoes, but smothered greens. That's my two favorite sides. What's your favorite sides when it comes to fried chicken? All right, once it's fried, now again, depending on the size is going to determine how long you want to cook this. So let's see what we're working with here. Now look, we're starting to get that really beautiful crust on the outside. So let's go ahead. We're going to take that out. Again, be really careful with this hot oil, guys. And now we're ready to serve it. Kind of put it on a nice napkin, shake off some of that excess oil. And now we are ready to serve this up. Whether it's fried seafood or whether even for fried chicken, I like to put a little lemon on it. But that's, of course, personal preference. So I got just a couple lemon wedges that I'm going to throw on here. A couple little greens because I'm fancy. I'm going to put that on there. And there you go, guys. This is my Southern sweet tea brine fried chicken. Hope 2021 is going great for all you guys. Thank y'all so much for coming in, and we will see you next week.